Welcome to So and So, brought to you by Bernina, made to create. I'm Meg Goodman, and you're about to enjoy a casual conversation with a special member of the sewist and quilting community. A conversation about how they got started, what inspires them, what excites them, and their connection to this community. Our guest today is Mary Lou Cox, Area Manager, Creative Workroom at Disney. Born in Mexico and raised in California since she was 6 months old, Mary Lou comes from a large family of sewists. Her grandparents had a store in Tampico, Mexico, and her mother would sew all her school clothes. She herself began sewing at the age of 10. She's worked in the entertainment industry for the last 25 years and taught at LA Trade Tech, the fashion design program. She loves sharing her learning experiences. She's traveled the world, visiting sewing factories in Japan, Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, New York, and Texas. Mary Lou Cox, welcome to So and So.
Thank you so much, Meg.
We are very excited to have you with us today. There is some very strong richness in the stories that you're going to share with us. So I'm going to jump in and say, how did you learn to sew and who influenced your sewing?
Well, I believe that I have to say my mom.
Mhm.
She used to sit at that sewing machine and we were in tight quarters. And in order to get from one side of that area to the other, we had to like jump around her bed to get to the other side. And I used to just sit there on the bed next to her while she sewed and I would just watch her.
And you decided from that that you liked what you were seeing and took it up from there, right?
Yeah, and basically, at some point, I guess if I wanted new school clothes, I had to sew.
There's that too. The age of 10, you started sewing. We're going to jump to what you do today. You currently work at Disney, but you've been in the entertainment industry for more than 25 years. So, can you walk us through your path in this industry and how it eventually led you to where you are today?
So, I actually, after college, I did work for an entertainment company, and that was an internship, and then I started working for them afterwards. And actually, the story is kind of interesting. One day they said, "Mary Lou, what are you doing? Where are you going from here?" Kind of telling me, "You need to find another place because we can't help you grow anymore.
Oh,
This what we
interesting.
have is
Uh-huh.
what we have." And I went into at my lunch break, I went into a shop that was pretty close to where ours was, and I was, "Okay, well, I guess I better put my portfolio together." So I started gathering supplies to get my portfolio together. It had been a couple years since I had updated anything, right? And there was this man in the store, and I go, "Oh, he," and I asked him a question about a marker or something, and then he goes, "Oh, what are you looking for?" So I started telling him that I was looking for another job and that this is what I do, but I really to make patterns. And he said, "I know somebody who's hiring." I
Hmm.
was like, "Here." So long story short, I got that job and then I just started progressing in pattern making. I love making patterns and helping fit. And then eventually one day Disney called me and said, "Hey, we need somebody." And that was 20 years ago.
Hmm. And you lead a team of very talented sewists at Disney. Can you share with us a little bit about what they create?
Well, we are creators of a lot of wonderful costumes for our shows, our parades, and we have talent atmosphere. There's a lot of little talents when you walk around Disneyland on top of the parades and things that. So
Hmm.
we just create a lot of different what we to say we make magic every day.
Hmm. You do indeed. We talked a little bit about the fact that you find it very exciting to see these creations bring great joy to people. Can you give us an example?
Well, I to go out to the park and I just to sit there. And especially during the parades, you're sitting on the curb and there might be a little kid next to you or something, and they're so excited to see the characters or the princesses or someone, right, in the parade. And it's really enjoyable to see them make contact with this child.
Mhm.
And there's pictures, right, where you might see Minnie Mouse with a little girl or Snow White with a little child that has the same red shoes,
Mm.
or Buzz Lightyear with a little boy that has a Buzz Lightyear costume on, and it's just so cute to see the little kids get so excited about being at Disneyland and seeing
Mhm.
everything.
Now you also do some work with Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, well, the Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and their friends have been on Dancing with the Stars, so you get to see them in their very sparkly outfits that have been created for them so that they match with the rest of the performers that
Mm.
are in the show.
Now, we talk about the fact that you sew for entertainment. How is this different from sewing for everyday wear or fashion?
Well, interesting. When I actually first started at Disneyland, I was in the department where we did the costumes for people in the park. So if you worked in Haunted Mansion, we worked on the the dress for Haunted Mansion,
Mhm.
Pirates of the Caribbean. And when you make clothes for them, they're clothes that has to be washed a certain way or has to be able to move a certain way or breathe, right? It might be hot one day outside or it's very cold. And when you make a costume for somebody that's in a parade, dancers, they're doing very different type of physical work.
Mhm.
So you look at different fabrics, you have different types of seams that are put in a certain way, or you have gathers that might be there to allow different comfort for different sizes and different movement. So a
Mhm.
lot of the costumes that we make are not just sustainable, but we also think about the movement of the person that has to wear the costume.
Have you seen things change in your 25 years for the type of fabrics that you can work with or techniques or just the tools of your trade?
I have to say yes. And and just in the time at Disney, not even counting the time that I was in the garment industry, right? At Disney, we look at sustainability. We think about sustainability a lot. We also look at different fabrics for breathability. Maybe fabrics that are made out of bamboo or wicking fabrics that help keep a performer or a cast member cooler.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that, and I'm sure that those types of things are in the garment industry as well, and that people are wearing them in everyday life, but they become a lot more important for for my type of work, maybe for a somebody in sports or something like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely we're constantly evolving.
There was a wonderful story about Kayla and Briar Rose and how you supported them. First of all, would you tell us who they are, and then would you share the story with us?
So Kayla is a cast member and she had a need for a special costume for her Briar Rose, who is her service dog, right?
Mhm.
And we do every year a huge performance at the end of the year, and Kayla was going to be in this performance with Briar Rose. And we just thought it would be so nice to be able to have Briar Rose match what Kayla's had, her choir robe. And so we brought them in and we did some measurements and we tried on other robes that we have done for other service dogs. And we were able to get Kayla and Briar Rose the same matching choir robe.
And there are pictures on the internet of this, and they are wonderful.
Yeah, we also have we do a lot of things for Toys for Tots.
Uh-huh.
And we had another program, and this one is really special to me. So we used to get these teddy bears from the Salvation Army, and everybody in the whole workroom and around in the costuming division or the entertainment division at Disney would get a teddy bear and they would dress them, and then we would
Mm.
box them up and ship them to Florida, and they would hand them out. And I think at some point, maybe Salvation Army said that's too many teddy bears for us to supply. I'm not sure what the whole situation was. But I
Uh-huh.
said, why don't we just make our own teddy bears? So for the past couple of years, we had a nice little teddy bear pattern that we've had to update. But we make teddy bears now, and then we hand them out to people in the resort. And sometimes people even just decide, hey, I know how to sew. I'm going to make a teddy bear. And then they dress them and they
Mhm.
bring them back to us all dressed, and we hand them in for Toys for Tots. And we've been upping every year. So this year, our goal was to get to 70 teddy bears because we thought, oh, it's our 70th. We should try to get to 70. And
Mhm.
we actually surpassed that. We were over 100 that we were
Hmm.
able to donate for Toys for Tots. So that was also just something fun that we get to do, and just really exciting to be able to make those teddy bears.
You mentioned earlier in our conversation you love pattern making, and you also love to teach sewing techniques. Would you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, when I did get to the garment industry, I was a pattern maker, and I ended up doing that for several years. And I just really enjoy taking a basic block and making something different. I love to wear clothes that I make because it's different. Nobody has the same thing and it fits me. So when I started working at LA Trade Tech, my favorite class was teaching pattern making.
Mhm.
And I could literally have an entire class session, 6 hours on dart manipulation and how to move darts around a block to make a different style. It's just origami, I guess. It's very interesting for me. So I really enjoy doing that. And then when it comes to sewing, I think about how can we sew something easier or faster? I'm not a great hand sewist. And
Mhm.
I tell everybody every day, I'm not that great at hand sewing, but I can work a sewing machine. And I really enjoy being able to figure out how to do something with the sewing machine to get it done faster. So there's just a lot of little tips and tricks and things that I've learned throughout the years. And I'm teaching those and saying, hey, how about if we do this? So let's change the pattern a little bit. And so this pocket I think it was on Instagram actually. I saw a little clip of somebody who was sewing a bagged pocket. Usually you have your pocket piece, then you have your piece that goes around the whole pocket. They put this all in one pattern and we're sewing it in one pattern piece, and it was so easy and so simple. And so I think about things like that, like if we did it the other way, we would have to cut all those pockets, thinking production wide. So we would have to cut the pockets, cut all those little strips, sew the pocket together before you could even sew it onto the garment that you're making. And
Mhm.
so I think about how can we make things easier? I was in a class and I saw another thing that somebody showed me. When you have to sew hook and eyes on,
Mhm.
Usually we take it and we just hand stitch it. Well, I'm not a good hand stitcher, but somebody said, take the tip of a chopstick and zigzag over the chopstick, and it makes a little loop. When you pull the chopstick out, you could actually thread the hook and eye inside and it's stitched.
Hmm.
So those are the interesting little techniques that I teach people.
And I would think with what you do both professionally and personally, there is no shortage of opportunities to create new and inventive things.
Yes.
You've traveled a lot, and I know you enjoy meeting creative people and learning about cultures. Can you share with us some of your favorite places that you've traveled?
Well, actually, I growing up, I had been out of the country to Mexico, but I had never really been to another country, right, other than Mexico, which can be familiar to us here in California because we're so close to the border, right?
Mhm.
But the first time I traveled, I went to pretty much I did an around the world trip. And I started off in Hong Kong, and then I went to China, and we just kept going around, right? And I thought, well, Hong Kong is a beautiful little country,
Mhm.
but every place that you go to is beautiful. They all have beautiful things and wonderful places to eat and see. But what I just really enjoyed was that when we went to one of these places, we would go to a sewing factory or to a place of business where people were creating in some fashion. And all of the people that I got to work with were so passionate about making clothes or whatever it is that they made. If they made hats or they made dresses for dancers, anything that they made, they were so proud of the things that they were able to do, the things they were able to produce. And I would watch them, and some of these people were quite young and some of them were not, but I would watch them and I would just see the look in their eye when they were presenting a garment to me for me
Mhm.
to approve, right? And they were so excited about how it looked or how it fit or and it was just really interesting to see. And you see that even in our crafts when we're making quilts or something. It's something that you did with your own hands and your own imagination. And you're so excited to see the finished product and then to see what somebody else, how somebody else might react to what it is that you made.
Mhm.
And that I thought was one of the most interesting things. But definitely all of the places that I went, it was really interesting to see the different factories in China, in some of the factories in Sri Lanka. The factory that we went to was really far away, and
Mhm.
they actually have a lunchroom, and then they make lunch and feed all the employees every day.
Hmm.
A big buffet, and everybody would come in at lunch, and you would actually, they served us. They had a whole kitchen crew that would make lunch and feed everybody every day so that they could just have their nice warm meal, and then they would start working again. And that was really interesting. Some of the factories, I remember a factory in China that we went to. When you come into the factory, you put on those little hospital type booties on
Mhm.
your shoes
Mhm.
because they don't wanna bring any of the outside dirt inside. In a typical Asian household, you may take your shoes off at the door. They do that, and that's how they work, and if they wanna wear shoes, that's good. You just have to wear the booties over your shoes to not bring in dirt. Very, very clean, very organized factories.
Now, in some of the places you've visited, do you have a story or two about some memorable people you've met? And can you share those with us?
Actually, one of them, and it's not really even about sewing. I was in Japan. No, it was in China, in Dalian, China, which is on the coast over the opposite coast of the other factories, right? Over closer to Shanghai. We went out to dinner one day, and it was an interesting restaurant where you walk in and the whole entire first portion of coming in is fish tanks and different kinds of it was a seafood restaurant, right?
Mhm.
And you would go in and somebody was with you and you'd say, "Okay, I want this fish or that fish or whatever it was that you wanted to eat." And then you kept going through the line and then you sat down and they would pick take all those and make them for you fresh.
Huh.
One of the dishes that we had was crab, and the way that they cut the crab, it must have been and I'm sorry if I get this wrong for somebody, but I believe it was the heart or something, but it's a delicacy to eat.
Mhm.
And so as the guest, they saved that delicacy for me, but I just didn't think I was into it that day. And there was this gal that I had worked with all day, and she was so cute, and she just wanted to eat that little delicacy. And they said, "No," I could tell they were saying it in their language, but I could tell what was going on, right? You
Mhm.
could tell he really wanted that little delicacy, and they were saving it for me, and I said, "I want you to have this," and she was just so excited to eat that. But those are just the things that you think about when you meet people. You don't even have to speak the same language, you just know. And she was so happy to be able to enjoy that little delicacy.
What wonderful opportunities to immerse yourself in other cultures firsthand, not even as a tourist, but somebody who does everyday things with them.
Right. Right, exactly. You know, they would be very happy to show me their town and and show me different buildings in their town and different things about their town. So it was really neat to be able to see different things. When I was in Sri Lanka, we went to an elephant orphanage, and that was also really
Mm.
exciting to see. And we got to come up at the top and then walk with the elephants as they walked them across a road and down a path to get to water so that they could take baths and enjoy themselves in a river. Different things that you get to experience.
Do you have any upcoming trips, that you're looking forward to?
No, I actually don't do too much of that same type of work than I used to. So I do a little bit different type of work now, and I do not have any trips planned, not for work. Personal ones, but not
Sure.
not work ones.
Well, in addition to these wonderful experiences you had, you've taken several specialty classes. Do you have a favorite one? And if so, why is it your favorite?
Well, I do to take classes. Actually, my very first quilt making class, right? I took
Mhm.
a class. I saw this quilt and I was, that is so beautiful. I really want to make that quilt. And I know I could have probably figured it out myself. So I really enjoy learning different things. And one day I went into a sewing store. I was just looking around and I saw a quilt on the wall and they had a quilt class for it. And I thought to myself, I've never really made a quilt. I made one in high school, but it wasn't a quilt. So when I saw this quilt, I thought it was so beautiful. And I thought to myself, I would really to make that quilt for my daughter for Christmas. But I know myself that I get really busy and I start a project. A lot of people, I'm sure, we don't finish it or we don't finish it in time, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to make that quilt for her. I thought to myself, the only way I'm going to finish that quilt for Christmas is if I take this class.
Good motivation.
So I did. I took the class and I think it was a 5-week class every Monday. But what's so neat about it was you had to go home and do the homework to be ready for the next class.
Uh-huh.
And so it was great motivation to be able to finish that quilt. I had to finish it. I was in class, right?
Sure.
You can't come to class without your assignments prepared. So that class was really interesting. I also took another class on bra making,
Huh.
and that was in Canada above Buffalo over by the waterfall over there,
Niagara?
Niagara
Uh-huh.
Falls. And it was a really interesting class, a completely different type of sewing, different everything, right, than making a quilt. But I had never taken that type of class before, so I really enjoyed that too. I also took a class on tutu making. I don't know why. I wanted to learn how to make a tutu, so I took this class, and it's a company that's I believe they're in Atlanta. I'm not really sure. Becky's somewhere. And they actually travel around in the summer or throughout the year, and they have different classes. And one time they came to California. So I signed up for one of their classes, and that was also pretty interesting, especially making the bodice and the corset type, which helped me at work because we do a lot of
Mhm.
corset type dresses and things like that. So it was neat to see a different perspective of how to do something than the way we've always done it.
So quilts, bras, and tutus. That's diverse. Hey,
There.
do you still have that first quilt that you made?
I do. Well,
Uh-huh.
I gave it to my daughter for Christmas and she still has it, and it's beautiful. I really love looking at it because I just love the way it came out, and I
Uh-huh.
always go, "I think I'm gonna make another one of those."
So I was gonna ask if you still quilt. So you're thinking about it.
Well, I did make another one after that class that I came up with a design, a little bit along the same lines. It was a log cabin, but my quilts don't look very traditional. They are made with the first one was a lot of tie-dye type fabrics. The second one I made was a Hawaiian print quilt.
Mhm.
So they don't look traditional quilts, but I'm using traditional patterns, right? I use the log cabin pattern. And somebody said to me that in a log cabin pattern, the very center square is a light being left on in your house.
Huh, I like
That you're
that.
leaving the light on in the log cabin for visitors who may come.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where that came from, but my second log cabin quilt, I made it in these really pretty Hawaiian type print fabrics, and then every little square had a yellow in the center for the center square that I sewed on because I wanted to keep tradition of that light being on.
That's a wonderful way to look at those quilts. When you are not sewing for Disney or quilting, how do you spend your time? What do you do?
I have gotten into and doing a lot of things with apothecary and things like that. So everybody at work always teases me and they say, "Oh, you should have an apothecary house."
Uh-huh.
Because I say, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, here, you have a sore throat. Let me give you this. This will help you with your sore throat."
Mhm.
And I like to do things like that. So I have a garden that I've started, herbs and food, right? Not flowers. Well, I do have a couple flowers in there, but I started that. So I really enjoy that. And then I also started, like a lot of people, the sourdough
Mhm.
thing, if you've heard about
Oh,
that.
indeed.
So everybody at work has gotten to taste my sourdough bread for my whole first year of trying to come up with which recipe is gonna work for me the best and not come out dense in the flavor, and so I've I'm on my second year of sourdough bread making, and I think I've gotten that one down pretty good, so I'm gonna have to start something else and figure out how to make something else. I have a lot of fruit trees, and I thought, well, I need to learn how to make lemon peel and orange peel candy and
Mm,
lemon curd and jam, things that. So
lots of
I really
creativity.
enjoy cooking.
Now, is that sourdough, Mary Lou, where you have a starter? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, I have a starter. And so I had a starter and then I killed that one. And then I had another one and it died too. And I took a little class. I actually took a sourdough class. And I went to this class where this lady gave us some tips and then she gave us a new starter that she called Brad. So I have Brad Jr. and Brad Jr.'s doing well. So,
It's almost like having another child, I've heard.
oh, it totally is.
Mary Lou, what's next for you and what's your dream?
You know, I think about that often, and what I really enjoy is I really think that I wanna start teaching people how to sew.
Mhm.
You don't have a lot of sewing classes in the schools anymore. Maybe it's coming back, but it hasn't really quite gotten back. And so when I was at LA Trade Tech, it was just really surprising to me how many young kids came in and they wanted to learn about fashion and they had never sewn before. And I thought, wow, I was so lucky that I learned early from my mom. I thought, I want to teach kids how to sew,
Mhm.
teach them a skill. Over the summer break, I had my grandson here, and when my kids were little, I would teach them how to sew, but my grandson was here, and I said, "Let's make something, let's learn how to make something," and I put him on my overlock. Oh, he loved that because it
Mhm.
was a machine and it was cutting. I gave him a piece of fabric, and by the time he was done, it was a little slower, but I thought, let's learn how to sew. And he
Mhm.
actually went home with a pair of pajama pants and some sweats that we had done. And we even did an embroidery on the pocket that he was all excited about because it was his embroidery. It wasn't anybody else's.
So you're carrying on the family tradition.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I think you're right. That's what I think I want to do is reach out and try to figure out how to start teaching people how to sew.
No doubt that will happen. No doubt. In our conversation today, Mary Lou, is there a question I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Gosh, no, I think we covered everything. Well, maybe there is something that throughout my life and my career and the things that I've been doing, it's interesting how things have come about for me. The guy that I met in that one store who told me about a position and then I got that. And working there one day, I was a little frustrated and this one kid that worked in the warehouse, it was close to the beach, and so they would leave and go surf
Mhm.
at lunch and then come back, right? And I remember talking to him, and he goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know. Maybe it's time for me to move on." And he goes, "Oh, hey, I know somebody who's hiring." And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, this dude that I surf with, he works at he works at this surfing store." And I was, "Really?" And so he gave me the information, and then I I went to that place, and I started working there. And it just seems the connections that you meet with people, you never know what doors they might open.
Mhm.
One day when at I was shopping at Target or Walmart or something, and I saw this girl that I had worked with several years before who actually went to high school with my sister, and we were talking and she goes, "Oh, I know somebody who's looking for a job or something or someone that does this." And I go, "Oh, okay." She goes, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Sure, let them know." Well, months had gone by and then all of a sudden I get a call from Disney and they said, "Oh, we're looking for somebody." And I thought, wow, the connections that you make and the people, this community is so small but so big, right? So it's really interesting the connections that you make throughout the years that you're working or living, doing what you do that end up leading you just to a new adventure.
And to be open to it.
Right.
Mary Lou, I have so enjoyed talking to you today. I've looked forward to this, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today.
Thank you. It was really a great pleasure to be part of this. I really enjoyed it as well.
Now, if our listeners would like to reach out to you, is there a best way for them to do so?
I have an Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and it's Sewing Wildflowers. That might be the best way. I
Okay.
do look on that a lot and I to see what other people create. So that's probably where I am.
All right. And that's Sowing Wildflowers on Instagram. And I would invite those of you who do reach out to Mary Lou to tell her that you heard this story on so and so. Mary Lou, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. Another story about someone just you, someone for whom sewing and quilting is so much more than a hobby. It's a way of life and a big connection to something much bigger. If you know someone you think has an outstanding story, a story that should be shared on this podcast, please drop me a note to meg@soandsopodcast.com or complete the form on our website. Be sure to subscribe to, review, and rate this podcast on your favorite platform, and visit our website, sewandsopodcast.com, for more information about today's and all of our guests. That's SEWANDSO podcast.com. And finally, I want to thank Bernina for making this program possible. I'm Meg Goodman, and I look forward to you joining us next time on So and So.